Well, hello and welcome everyone to the Cancer Killers webinar. On behalf of Genesis Chiropractic Software, I'm Dr. Tabor Smith. I am here with an amazing individual, amazing author, amazing chiropractor. Dr. Charles Majors is changing the lives of hundreds and thousands of individuals right now. He's helping chiropractors change the lives of people in their community, and he's sharing his story. He has an amazing story. He's been through some amazing things, and just like you or me, his biggest test is now his biggest testimony. I can't wait for you to hear his story. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the author of The Cancer Killers, The Cause is the Cure. I am so excited to have him here tonight on this webinar. Dr. Majors, thank you for being here with us. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be with us here tonight. Really
thank you, and thank you so much for doing webinars like this. And I heard yours a few weeks ago back on screenings, and it was powerful as well.
Thanks for saying that. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to let you get right into it. I'm going to turn it over to you. I can't wait to hear your story, straight from you. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, well, let me start. I mean, some people have heard my story, some people have read about it, and I want to take you through a little bit of my story and why I not only wrote the book, but now why I'm helping hundreds and hundreds of chiropractors help build their offices as well through the same program of doing the Cancer Killers, the what we call the Cancer Killer makeovers or seminars in office, out of office. So I want to take you through it a little bit differently and explaining that as we go through it. But why I can be on this phone right now and be on this webinar having this conversation with you about cancer. You hear everyone talk about cancer and being able to help people or not help people and having the answer or not. But until someone's actually went through it and they've been there and are back from it, it's going to be hard for you to ever listen to them. I understand that now.
Right.
But it's been about 3.5, 4 years now, but about 4 years ago I started having severe migraine headaches to the point where I couldn't function for almost a day or two, and obviously was getting adjusted at the time. It would temporarily take it away, and I never knew what it was for sure. Had the re-x-rays taken, more x-rays taken. There was some damage to the spine after all the years and everything I've done. And then I had been tested positive for Lyme disease. Thought for sure it was the Lyme. I'd been working on that. It was going away, but it just kept getting worse. Headaches were getting worse. I was then passing out. If I worked out on a Monday, I wouldn't be able to do anything until about a Thursday. That's how long it would take me to even recover. I had to lay. I couldn't stand up or walk around at all. And then finally, my Lyme disease test came back. It said it was gone. I cleared it out. About a week later, I still woke up. Couldn't get out of bed, couldn't move. So finally I was suggested, it's time to get an MRI, and I was kind of prolonging it like any of us as a chiropractor would want to. I prolonged it and finally went in to get an MRI. It was about 3:30 in the afternoon, and they said they'd get back to me the next day. Got home at around 5:30 that night, and I had woke up with it was about 6 o'clock by the time I woke up. 5:30 I woke up. I can't remember, just went to sleep, just passed out again. Woke up with my wife on top of me and my oldest son crying at that time, and I woke up, and you thought somebody had died in the house. That's how bad they were crying and freaking out. And then my wife looked at me and I said, what happened? She said, they called. And I said, they called already? It's only been a few hours since I've left there. And she said, they called immediately. You have 4 tumors in the brain, 2 of them by your brainstem, they said, and they don't even know how you're still functioning. They want you at Northwestern Hospital immediately with the neurologist. And it was already set up appointments. They got me in a car, and they drove me down to Northwestern. It's about a 45-minute drive for me to get there. They drove me down to there. I got in there to the neurologist. They literally looked at my MRI at the time and still couldn't believe I was standing and functioning at all because the tumors at the time. And I'll go through briefly so you guys can kind of see where that is. This is what a normal MRI has to look like of the brain, and most of us know how to read that. But I'm gonna show you what this was my MRI right here, and you can see the one on the left. compared to the one on the right. The one on the right was mine with the red circle on there, and you can see the corpus callosum, you know, where the FV is and the CM. That you can see the difference of mine and that one, how it was smashed. The tumors were so big inside of the brainstem, and you can see how thin the spinal cord was. The spinal fluid couldn't flow down, and that's why I was getting the headaches. That's why I couldn't function. The brain was being affected so much. And at this point, they looked at it and they didn't know how I was surviving. And so they said, well, it based on my age and based upon how I looked, I guess, and based upon everything else, they thought it's benign. We'll go in there. It takes about a week of exploratory, surgeries and getting you prepped, and we'll be doing some brain surgery and pulling it out. But before that happened, they had to get the fluid out of my brain, so they actually take a drill, literally take a drill, and you can't have any sedatives or any painkillers. You have to let them know what's going on. They take a drill and they drill right into the top of your skull. Right, I told my mom at the time and my wife. They said, you need to leave the room. You do not want to see this. That's always not as comforting as you'd think. They told them to get out of the room. They don't want to see this. And they literally proceeded to drill a hole down my top of my skull into my brain to put tubes down into there while I was still awake. And it literally sounded like somebody was drilling through porcelain at the top of your head to put the tube in there. But the pain was so severe anyway. I didn't care what they did just to get rid of that pain at the time. Wow. So then I went through it had been about 5 more days of misery of testing and things they were doing to get me ready for the surgery. The day came, I went in for the surgery. They said it can be around 6 to 8 hours of surgery to remove the tumors. I was in surgery maybe, I'm not sure how long, because I was out of it about 4 to 5 hours. The neurosurgeon, who is, I guess, ranked number 2 or number 3 in the world of neurosurgeons, went up there. He cut on the first tumor, and it started bleeding. He pulled out of there immediately, and he knew at that moment that it wasn't benign, it was all cancer. That he was actually trying to cut on the cancerous tumors in the brain. At that time, it was spreading. They walked into the room where all my family, Dr. Ben, who co-wrote the book with me, and other people were sitting there, and they said that, told him the news. They said he may not even wake up by morning. The cancer was spreading throughout the brain. There was swelling all over. But thank goodness I woke up hours and hours later. I had no idea what was going on. I figured they got the tumors out of there and everything was fine, but you woke up to a room where, again, you thought someone had died. No one would say anything. No one told me anything. It must have took about another day till I figured out, and I couldn't speak. I had a tube that was down my throat, lost my voice. I had a tube in my stomach, and so no one would tell me anything. And then finally they had to come in to tell me that there was cancer in the brain. Worse than that is it was coming from somewhere else in my body, that wasn't the primary location. They spent another day of testing after testing and scanning to find out what organ the cancer metastasized from. They couldn't find it. So finally they did a bone marrow biopsy and ended up coming at my blood, my bone marrow had been producing cancer for a long period of time, and it spread throughout my body and went into my brain, and that's what it was. So it ended up, I was diagnosed with they walked in the room, they said, you have an incurable bone marrow cancer. There's not much we can do but chemotherapy, radiation, and a bone marrow transplant. And at that time, I said, you know what? I know what to do here. I said, God needs no help healing, no interference. If I cut my arm right there, it would heal. I knew my body could heal. Something had to interfere with this, and that was me right there. They brought me out of the hospital within a day. I was in a wheelchair, could barely walk or move anymore, and I said, I'm headed out of here. And at that point, we started figuring out exactly where am I going to go, what's the plan to get me out of there. I literally got on a plane. That was a Thursday. I was leaving the hospital right there. That was a Thursday, about noon. I got on an airplane at around 4 or 5 o'clock to head to Reno, Nevada to begin all the protocols.
Wow. Man, that is an intense story. I think I just got the goosebumps like 2 or 3 times while you were telling me. That has to be a scary feeling.
Oh, no, I mean, you know what? It was, but still, and this is why it's amazing for us is we have our philosophy. We know that our body and God needs no help, healing, no interference. That something had to interfere with my body to create this. The more I knew, the more I got down into, and I remember getting on the internet immediately, and I was just studying. The first time I opened up a bone marrow cancer, and you open up what was going on, it would say again, incurable, devastating death, and it's going to be a horrible, death, and on and on. And then I finally just I got out of those sites on the internet, and I finally would open up stuff that said, I wanted to know, is there one person who survived this? Is there anyone who's made it? And then I started reading on those people. And right away, the most powerful thing is you start to get hope. If one person can do it, I can do it. And if no one did it, I'm going to be the first one to do it. I'm going to figure this out. Again, 5-10 years ago this wasn't going on. Something had to cause this.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, man. Thank God that you're such a chiropractic warrior, and that shows me, what it really tells me is how important it is to have a strong philosophy now, because you don't know what's going to hit you. You don't know what kind of obstacles are going to come at you. And if you don't have your thinking right, you don't have your philosophy right, then you could fall victim to all of the scare care out there and all the things that are coming at you. They're trying to scare you. They're trying to break you down. And thank God that you were strong enough and you had that will and the mindset that you're going to beat this no matter what.
Yeah, because the one thing I've always known is to get myself out of any issue, to get myself out of any obstacles, to get myself out of anything. All I have to do is work my way out of it.
Right.
That all I had to do is whatever is going on, whatever I need to do, I'm going to go at it 100 times harder than anyone else has ever done it, and there's not a doubt I'm gonna reverse this. And so, and that's what you start looking at it where I was in this state. You mentioned the word cancer to any of your patients or anybody outside. It's the scariest word ever. You could tell somebody that had heart disease and they don't get scared. You could tell somebody almost any other diagnosis, and it could be devastating, but nothing is as devastating to anyone but cancer. That's why, without a doubt, it's become the biggest workshops, not only for me but for any of our clients have ever done, because everyone wants to know, how does it not become me? How does it never become me? What can I do to prevent this? Because people are at that point now where they know cancer now. And I'm going to go back so you guys can see some of the stats. But 41% of men and women born today will be diagnosed with cancer at some time. 41% of people. This number can also be expressed: one out of every 2 men and women will be diagnosed with cancer during their lifetime. That's almost 1 out of every 2 people now. Cancer is the leading cause of death from disease among U.S. children over 1 year of age. The number 1 cause of death in children over 1 year now is actually cancer. And global cancer cases are expected to rise 75% by 2030. That if you don't have at least a grasp on what cancer is and how to show people how to prevent it, I'm not teaching anyone how to cure cancer. That's not what we do here. It's not our job. That's not what we do. But we're going to teach people how to prevent it. We're going to teach people if they're in trouble, what are the resources they need to get them to the right places. Right now, the biggest marketing program of anything I've ever seen is, because this is where people are at, is in cancer. People are scared to death, and it's happening everywhere. And so that's when you look at the statistics there. And so what I want to touch on is a little bit about what I do when I'm doing these makeovers. I want to talk about what we're doing when we do these talks in office, when we do these talks out of office. Because this is, even out of office, it's one of the bigger talks that I'll be asked to do on a regular basis. From companies to churches to organizations, they want to know about cancer. They have lots of their congregation. They have lots of their employees. They want to figure this out as well. And so for me, I had to know, and anytime I'm doing a consultation with a patient who has cancer, before anything happens, I need them to understand what cancer is. Because when you understand what cancer is, then and only then can you have the power over this. That's the thing. You have to know what it is. Because if you don't know what it is, if you ask 100 cancer patients what cancer is, still 99 don't know what it is. No wonder why it scares you. No wonder why you don't know. But even chiropractors, they don't even fully understand. If you understood that it goes back to the philosophy, if you really, when I take you through this, it's so powerful to understand this. It'll wake you up to understand what cancer is and isn't, and then how do we prevent it, or how do we reverse.
Right. Dr. Majors, you still there?
Yep. Okay, so now we look at that and we go, okay, number one is all health, every bit of health begins in the cell. All our health begins at a cell. Yes, our brain sends messages down the spinal cord through the nerves. I get it. But everything begins at the cellular level. Everything begins there. We're made of nearly 75 trillion cells. 75 trillion cells. You create more than 100 billion new cells every day of your life. Every day. Cells are dying, new cells being replaced. Cells are dying, new cells being replaced. That is exactly what health is. Health is when our new cells are being replaced. Old cells are dying, new ones being replaced. Old cells are dying, new ones being replaced. Every cell of our body has a cell life in it. Right? They all have a cell life. They're to grow to a certain point, die, and new ones get replaced. Well, all cancer is a cell that doesn't die, and it keeps replicating abnormally over and over and over again. And so according to Harvard Medical, our cells are genetically programmed to live 120 years. And that's powerful. I talk to patients about this, and they're like, really, 120 years? Again, I'm just telling you what Harvard Medical is saying. Genetically, we're programmed for our cells to grow and die for over 120 years. That correlates with the Bible, that correlates with other things. But again, we look at that and go, cancer is nothing more than a cell that doesn't die. It's a cell that instead of dying begins to replicate itself abnormally again. And so we start to grasp on to what cancer is. So apoptosis is cellular death. When every one of our cells has a cellular death to it. It's supposed to grow and die and grow and die. And that's what happens is where cancer just gets itself out of control and doesn't die. So right there we know, okay, so if cancer begins at a cellular level, I need to get down to the cellular level to figure this thing out. What's happening? What's going on? And so in abnormal cellular growth and diminished immune response are byproducts of poor lifestyle choices. So what happens is that these abnormal cells begin to grow. Our immune system is getting weaker, and now our body can't kill those abnormal cells off. That's what our immune system does. If our immune system is at its top, functioning at 100% and working well, every time that abnormal cell shows up, our brain gets through the nerves into those organs and kills those cells every time they show up. But when our immune system gets weak, when our lifestyle choices are bad, our immune system is down, we're subluxated, all those things I'm going to touch on in a second, our body can't now fight off, and the cancer begins to spread faster. And so the cause of cancer, the cause of every disease, when our cells become toxic and deficient. And so, yes, somebody says, well, subluxation is the cause of all disease. Absolutely, because subluxation is an interference to the body, which builds up what? Which causes us to build up toxins or not release toxins. Subluxation causes deficiencies of nerve impulses. Subluxation causes us to have deficiencies of nutrients back to the cells, on and on. Subluxation is obviously one of the primary causes of this. But all cancer and all diseases because the body becomes toxic and deficient. Toxic and deficient. And so that's what we're dealing with when we look at this. And so let's look at, this is what the interesting part is. Let's look at the characteristics of a healthy cell and a cancer cell. So for me, again, I'm thinking, okay, so what, and this is where it becomes powerful. This is where it comes into the chiropractic philosophy right here. And so a healthy cell, if you look over on the left here, a healthy cell uses oxygen for fuel. Our healthy cells use oxygen, which means it uses respiration. It uses respiration for its fuel. It doesn't use sugar for its fuel. But a cancer cell uses sugar for fuel. It's what's called fermentation. It runs on a different program. It uses sugar for fuel. Remember, a cancer cell has more receptor sites. Every time you look at a cancer cell, it has more receptor sites for sugar. It needs sugar to survive. it turns off its use of oxygen. It doesn't need any oxygen. Remember, a lot of you know the study on Otto Warburg did years and years ago where in a laboratory he would have a normal cell there. He'd begin to shut the oxygen off to the cell, and that cell at a certain point would begin to turn cancerous. So we knew at that moment that the normal cell has to have oxygen to survive. A normal, healthy cell lives in a slightly alkaline environment, but a cancer cell can live in an acidic environment. But it also can live in a highly, highly alkaline environment. This is a tough one for chiropractors because everybody wants to go drink their alkaline waters and they want to do all this alkaline stuff. But God didn't create us to be severely alkaline either. He created us to be in homeostasis, which means we're slightly a bit more alkaline, not too alkaline and not too acidic. And so we look at those characteristics, just these three characteristics, and we go, okay, so there it is right there. So if a cancer cell needs sugar, hates oxygen, lives in acid, right, all I need to do is make sure I get my body back into the right amount. So we start looking at that. And as I'm teaching patients this, remember that, well, again, to teach a patient this is powerful. That prevention is worth everything. Remember, chemotherapy or radiation is going to cost them hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and possibly their life. How much would it be worth to learn the things that we teach? And these people, it's amazing to watch, when they get to learn this, that it makes sense. And they learn it from the chiropractic philosophy, because I'm going to get into that right now, and what this actually means. And so cancer doesn't make you sick. Your sickness over time creates your cancer. Let me say that again. The cancer itself could never, there's nothing about a cancer cell that can make you sick. Wow, this is a tough one. And I love when I'm speaking to a cancer patient to explain this, because at first they get angry at this. Cancer can't kill you. Nothing in the cancer cell can kill you. It's the sickness over time that creates the cancer. And so what that means is that if I just get rid of the cancer, what am I still? I'm still sick. And so guess what comes back? In 96% of the time, most people, the cancer comes back. Why? Because I never fixed what caused the cancer in the first place, which was the body became sick, the body became deficient, the body became toxic. And so then we build up cancer. And so every symptom, and this is where we get into the philosophy, that every symptom is the body doing the right thing at the right time. Every symptom, right? So if I in the room you're in right now, or your car, or wherever, if I put you in a room and shut all the doors and locked them all and started a fire, what happens immediately? Immediately your blood pressure goes up. Immediately your heart beats faster, right? Immediately your digestion is off. Immediately your cortisol levels skyrocket. Your immune system gets affected. Your everything, your digestion, right? Your heartburn. You may get diarrhea. But your body goes into a severe stress, fight or flight syndrome. Goes into severe stress, and you begin to create all these symptoms. So if I measured your blood pressure and cholesterol and your immune system, I measured all those things before you got in the room, and they were fine. You got into the room, and I started the fire, and all those things went up. Is that genetic, or is your body doing the right thing at the right time? Is your body adapting to the stress it's under? And everyone understands the body's doing nothing more than adapting to the stress it's put under. It's adapting. And cancer is the same exact thing, that when our blood pressure rises, why does our blood pressure rise? Well, why do you think? What do our cells need? Our cells need more oxygen. Our cells need more nutrients. Our blood needs to be flowing. Right? So if I'm not exercising enough, if I'm not putting the right nutrients into my body, my blood pressure has to raise. It has to move faster to get more oxygen through it. There's things that have to happen. That's the body doing the right thing at the right time. I'm not saying to keep it that way. I'm not saying to keep the blood pressure high and cholesterol. I'm not saying to do any of those things. What I'm saying is that we got to figure out why are those things happening. And the same thing happens with cancer. Oops, I went too fast there. The same thing happens with cancer right there. And so cancer is nothing more than a symptom. It's nothing more than a symptom. It's the symptom of the body being sick, and then cancer begins to show up over time. It's the cancer showing up over time. And so for instance, and I explain this with a plant, and I'll do this in my office a lot. I do this when I do the makeovers, when I do these seminars. I have a plant sitting there. I'll bring a plant out, and I have a plant in my office, and we let it die for about 2 weeks. Don't get upset about that. We let it die, and I have about half the plant is dying, and then I put it right in the center of the room there, and I'm explaining to people, okay, so they walk by and they're like, why is the plant sitting here? They run right into it. And I look at them and I say, okay, so what do you see? And they say, well, the leaves are brown. I said, so what's the first thing you do? And a lot of you have heard this before, but what's the first thing you would do when you walk by a plant with brown dying leaves? And they say, well, I'd water it first. Absolutely. You would ask, what is this plant missing? Does it have enough water? Does it have enough oxygen? Does it have enough sunlight? Is it toxic? Right? What's it missing? Right? You would ask what it's missing first. If you did nothing but cut off the brown leaves, what's going to happen? All you're going to do is get more brown leaves. You haven't fixed why the brown leaves are showing up, right? Same thing with the body. So if all of a sudden you're sick or you have cancer, and all I do is cut off the brown leaves, all I do is cut out the cancer, what are you still? You're still sick. So, and I ask this question. If you walk by that plant and you see those brown leaves, is it the brown leaves that are causing the plant to be sick? Or is it the plant sick causing the brown leaves? Right? I'll say that again. Is it the brown leaves that have created the plant to become sick? Or is the plant being sick created brown leaves? And they say every time, no, it's the brown leaves are there because the plant is sick. Absolutely. Why are you diagnosed with cancer? Not because the cancer showed up. It's because you're sick and the cancer showed up. If I just cut off the brown leaves, the plant's still sick. And if I just cut off the cancer, you're still sick. And somebody says, well, I'm not a plant. Absolutely. You're more powerful than anything that God ever created in your entire life. We are more powerful. We are more amazing. We have more potential than anything in the world. Yet we understand that when it comes to a plant, we don't understand it with our own bodies. That's just an example that I present on a regular basis, that people start to understand it. That if I do nothing but treat the symptom, I'm still left with the same body that created it in the first place. That it's time. That's the key that we're teaching, is it's time to get to the cause of what happened. So cancer is nothing more than a survival mechanism. It's not the problem. It's actually the solution. This is tough to say to someone that your cancer is the solution. But it is. It's a solution because it's our body's way of saying something's wrong. That something's wrong. It's the body's trying to survive. It's a healthy response of a body. It's a good response. I know that sounds weird to say that in one sense, but it is a good response of the body. And let me show you why here in a second, as we're about to end this part of it. Is if you look at over here on the left, you can see the healthy cell. You have a healthy, normal cell there with a normal cell life. Then you look over to the right, and you have a cancer cell. And then you look at over there, and so all we need to figure out is, why would that healthy cell convert over to that cancer cell? Why would happen? Well, what happens is the environment changes. The environment changes. And so let me touch on that for a second. So we look at the cell on the right, what's called, I don't like even saying cancer cell, it's an adapted cell. It adapts to the environment it lives under. Remember, we look at Bruce Lipton work, we look at genetics and everything, that genetics is nothing more than our environment changing and our body adapting to the environment it's put under. Just like if I put you in the room under stress and started a fire, you begin getting high blood pressure, you begin getting high cholesterol, you begin getting all those issues. Why? Because your body's adapting to the stress it's put under. So if you take a healthy cell and begin to change the environment it has to live in, right? What does that healthy cell need? It needs oxygen, right? It needs a stress-free environment that a normal cell can't live as long in a stressful environment. It needs a nerve supply. We know that a healthy normal cell needs a proper nerve supply to get everything it needs to it. We know that it needs no toxicity, that when toxins get in there, it affects it. It needs the nutrients. So we know that a healthy, normal cell has to have the function. And then what does this other cell need? And so that now I take it. So when we know my normal healthy cell has to have a stress-free environment, but yet I'm stressed every single day. We know that it needs a good nerve supply, but I have subluxation. There's pressure on my spinal cord and nerves, so it's not getting the proper nerve supply. I'm not eating well. I'm not exercising enough, getting oxygen in. I'm beginning to get toxic. And so that healthy cell can't survive. And so there's what's called the adaptation process. There's a survival mechanism. Because my healthy cell can't survive, let's for an example, without a certain amount of oxygen. So if I wasn't exercising enough, getting enough oxygen, if my body wasn't smart enough to convert from a healthy cell to a cancer cell, do you know what would happen? What would happen the minute I didn't get enough oxygen if my body didn't know how to convert to a cancer cell? I would die quickly because a normal cell has to have oxygen. But guess what cell can live without oxygen? So if I have a poor lifestyle, if I eat bad, I don't exercise enough, I have subluxation, I put poor nutrients into my body, guess what cell can survive for 6, 7, 8, 12, maybe 2, 3 years later? Cancer can. That cell can survive and survive and survive. And then finally, obviously, it's going to take over a certain area. But it gives me an extra couple years on my life so I can change my life, so I can change my environment, so I can change what I'm doing in my life. But if my body wasn't smart enough to convert to a cancer cell, I'd be dead instantly when I didn't get enough oxygen. I'd be dead instantly when I didn't get enough nutrients. I'd be dead instantly when I had too much stress. I mean, it's like kind of that goosebumps you were talking about earlier, but it's like this is the chiropractic. This is innately like our body is so brilliant. It's so smart. It knows that, hey, you're not going to live this healthy lifestyle. I need to give you some warning signs. That's what pain is. That's what everything is. And then it gives you these warning signs and says, okay, I'm giving you some warning signs. The cancer is showing up. Change your lifestyle. Change your environment. And then guess what happens? Just like what Otto Warburg did, go back and study Otto Warburg. In the lab, he would literally take, because this is what's powerful. Remember, I just talked about it. He would take a normal cell, the one on the left. He'd begin to shut down its the amount of oxygen into it. It would convert over to this cancer cell. But here's what most people don't read or listen to. He would start bringing the oxygen back into this cancer cell. And what do you know? It began converting itself right back into the healthy cell again. They didn't even have to kill it. And so for a lot of people, depending on what stage of cancer they're in, they don't have to go and kill all their cancer. All they need to do is begin to convert the cancer cell back to the healthy cell. That's how powerful it is.
Wow, Dr. Majors, and let me just say on behalf of myself and everybody that's listening right now, man, you can hear the passion in your voice when you speak. And I mean, I know you're a powerful speaker, and you've been through this. And just for context for everybody who's listening, Dr. Majors told his whole first half of his story, but Dr. Majors beat one of the most deadliest cancers on the planet, and is continuing to do that. He lives this. He doesn't just teach this; he lives this. And I got to hang out with him a little bit, not long ago, and talk with him. And this guy walks the walk, when it comes to lifestyle and health now. And his entire story is in his book, The Cancer Killers: The Cause of the Cure. In just a second, we'll show you, how to get that and how to get the presentation to start implementing the Cancer Killer Workshop in your office. But I just want to say that for myself and for everybody listening, that when we give this workshop, when we give this presentation, it's to tap into this passion that Dr. Majors is speaking with right now. It's to begin to put ourselves a little bit in Dr. Majors' shoes and realize where he is coming from. That he knows without a shadow of a doubt that what he says is true because he's lived it and he's been there. And so, I think sometimes with chiropractors is we lose confidence, we lose faith because, maybe we're not 100% sure about this philosophy, about, what we're saying, or we're worried about what someone else is thinking. Obviously, you can see Dr. Majors isn't, man. He's been there, he's done this. Anyway, Dr. Majors, I just wanted to tell you that I just truly appreciate this passion that you're bringing here on this webinar. This is probably the most intense and true webinar that I've ever been on or ever done.
No, and I appreciate it. And most people think that all I did maybe is got adjusted and changed my diet a little bit. Or I have somebody who says to me, the chiropractic, philosophy person only, and says, I can't believe that you went outside in, But And absolutely, I guess you'd say outside in. I don't know. I had weeks to live, so whatever it's going to take to reverse it. But again,
Yep.
There's also the point where, and I teach it in the book, and we showed it when we do these talks, that if somebody's in a stage 3 or stage 4, depending on what type of cancer it is, or sometimes in a stage 1 or 2 where it's metastasizing quickly and spreading fast, we have to do more. B.J. Palmer talks about it in the Green Books, and he says, you can give me somebody with a 20-centimeter tumor, and he says, yep, all I got to do is adjust them. He goes, the problem is it may take me 25 years to get rid of their cancer. This is B.J.
Right.
Palmer saying that. He understood and grasped on with it. Sometimes time, go back and read the Green Books. It's called time. Time is of an essence sometimes. And so in my case, I went in and I was doing IV vitamin C, IV H2O2, ozone blood cleaning. I was doing a lot of things because at that time, I didn't have time to just change the environment to change the cancer over to a healthy cell. I literally had to get in there with the immune system stuff as well. And we go through all that, and we talk about that as well. And that's what we talk about is going to go to the website, www.beacancerkiller.com, not only to get the book, but also we have the step-by-step program of how to do these talks in your office, out of your offices. You get not only do you actually get the PowerPoint that you're seeing here, you get a full PowerPoint, you get three different talks as well that get you prepared, not only how to build it in your office, how to get your office ready, how to do these outside your office. We do it step by step by step. And at that point, it's literally, it's the cost of pretty much just buying extra books. You'll get the whole entire makeover with that as well.
Man, that is awesome. I encourage everybody, to go straight to, after this webinar, go straight to beacancerkiller.com, 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 and get this book and read it. I've read it a couple of times. It's absolutely amazing, and this is what in this book, like, Dr. Majors leaves nothing out. He tells his entire story. He tells not only, the story that he told us today, but step by step what he did, exactly how he did it, where he got it done, and then there's pages and pages of resources to help, not only that person who's trying to prevent cancer, which we all should be that person, but also that person who's trying to fight it right now, and like you said, doesn't have the time, and time is of the essence. And so every one of us has had cancer patients in our office, and if you're a chiropractor, you're coming from a heart of just caring and love, and there's nothing that you'd rather do than to help that person, to win their battle. And so, Dr. Majors, do you have anything else to add before I send them off to beacancerkiller.com?
No, I just want to say I appreciate everything you're doing, and and I always say is I went through, I suffered, I went through everything I did, so no one else ever has to again.
Amen. Amen to that. And guys, start doing this immediately, implementing the Cancer Killer Workshop in your office. Go straight right now, www.beacancerkiller.com. Get the book, get boxes of these books, hand them out to your patients, and get the workshop kits. Start doing these workshops, and just thank you, Dr. Majors, for helping us help more people through what you've been through your courage and your strength. You are literally changing hundreds of thousands of lives, and I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you not only for that, thank you for being on this webinar, thank you for giving of your time and sharing all this information with us. We really,
awesome. I appreciate you too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for being on the webinar. Again, last time, go to beacancerkiller.com, and we'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks.